Up to plus one most thing, and I be like, yo, G Pasta's all of the now who is me to the current baseball's the money, so I make like the money.
Yes. It's 2023, people, and we are live at the Web3 Town Square. Please make your way to your seats. While the ushers are showing other guests to their seats, please take a moment to share the space with your network. Soon, we will open the discussion and be bringing people up to ask their questions and join the conversation. If you would like to speak, please use the request button and we will bring you up on stage. We do have a few rules here at the town square. Please refrain from wasting time with FUD. If you don't plan to contribute constructively to the conversation, please do not come on stage. This is also strictly a no-shill space. You are welcome, of course, to discuss your project in the context of the conversation, but please, no shilling. As I said, if you would like to speak or join the conversation, please use the request to speak function and we will invite you up. If you are on stage, please raise your hand and we will do our best to invite questions and comments from the speakers in order. Please also keep your questions or comments related to the topic. The town square is not really designed to be a general space for chat. We do have a different topic every week and we aim to provide value for people listening in who are interested in that topic. And finally, this Spaces is brought to you by drug receipts. There is always a additional conversation taking place in the drug receipts Discord, and we encourage everyone to join that space at discord.gg/drug receipts. So while you're waiting for the late arrivals to be shown their seats, please sit back and relax and don't forget to share this space with your network, and we will get underway in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, here's a banger from the past for your oral auditory pleasures.
Ready for action, nip it in the bud, we never relaxing. Outcast is everlasting, not clashing.
So far, we're hoping that some of that sun's here, live at the
Remember, allow timber when you fall through the top.
As a blast from the past for your listening pleasure. Thank you everybody for joining us today here live at the Web3 Town Square, where today's topic is all about decentralized communications. And before we get into that, I'd like to introduce our co-host, the one and only inimitable Nebuchadnezzar. How are you, my friend? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm great. I'm great. Enjoying the summer over here in Queensland, apart from I'm currently stuck to my chair because of sunburn.
Well, if it's any consolation to you, I was in a jumper up until yesterday because Auckland is as cold as the hairs on Elvis, I think, right now. But yeah, it's been pretty average so far. We're hoping that some of that sunshine you guys are enjoying over there makes its way here soon. So what did you get up to, man? You took a little bit of digital detox, I see.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I kept it pretty quiet. I did the work I was probably supposed to do last year. Rather than sitting on Twitter Spaces. So yeah, it's all caught up and good to go.
Awesome. And I can see we've got a panel of speakers joining us today, bro. We've got NZ Web3, otherwise affectionately known as Jags. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, bro. Happy New Year to everyone out here. I hope you guys had a good New Year. Nebu, how are you, bro? Long time no see.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jags.
Yeah, thanks, Jags. Nice to see you, bro. We've got Nick. How are you, my friend?
Good as gold. What's happening? How we doing?
We're all going okay, I think, so far. It's been an early start to the year, but things feel... I don't know if everybody else is feeling it. I'm feeling it. It feels like things have kicked off on a little bit more of a positive vibe this year than last year. So...
Fuck yeah, start as you mean to go on. Let's go.
Let's go.
Have you looked at the news today?
I try to avoid mainstream news, and maybe that's my problem, is I get all of my news from stupid platforms like Twitter. Not decentralized, which is kind of the reason for today's chat, I think. Moving around the room, we've also been joined by the one and only Somnium. How are you, my friend? Happy New Year, bro.
Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on today's topic. We have also got Altered Hub, otherwise known as the Studio. Studio. How are you, my brother? Happy New Year.
Yo, Happy New Year.
Let's go.
Awesome to be part of the first chat of 2023.
Yep. One of no doubt many, I would have thought, for you guys this year. Big year for you.
Yeah, all of us. FUTUREVERSE, baby.
FUTUREVERSE, baby. And last, but by absolutely no means least, because here at the Web3 Town Square, we always save the best till last, is the one and only NF Monty. How are you, my dear? Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, no, good. What a way to kick off the first day back in business with a Twitter Spaces with all you guys. So it is amazing to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for giving up some of your time and sharing some of your wealth of knowledge and dropping some bombs on the unsuspecting listeners who are just not ready for what is about to come their way. I'm 100% sure on that. So, I'm going to kick us off in the interest of getting this conversation underway with what the fuck does decentralized communications even mean? I'm going to open the floor to anyone and everybody to please tell me, what is decentralized communications?
I got you, sir. Yeah, so I mean, really decentralization versus centralization is at the core of it. And, you know, when something is centralized, it kind of means in terms of technology that, you know, it's on kind of one major single server kind of deal. Whereas with decentralized, it's a multitude of servers and people that are running those different servers to, you know, power the network. So it's kind of a culmination of many different servers versus like one single, you know, main server that kind of powers the whole network. And that kind of goes for, you know, both blockchain and communications, if that's kind of a simple way to put it.
So I assume it's kind of the opposite in that respect to centralized communications, which is where everything lives on a server or potentially privately owned. So are there any examples of, I know like most of the people who are in this room are not old to the idea of decentralization, not old to the idea of the blockchain. What are some examples of what a decentralized comms network might look like? Are there any in existence at this stage?
Well, I guess you could take the SYLO app as one. And like in comparison, maybe a centralized comms app would be like maybe like WhatsApp or like Facebook Messenger type things. I'm trying to think. I think there's one maybe called Pollen.
Yes. Just in those three examples, there's actually a bit of nuance there. So when we talk about centralized and decentralized, it's not always clear that who is in control of the data. And decentralized, we always go into it with the approach that it is my information that I choose to give to the blockchain. And if I want anything from the blockchain, I have to request it. And then there's another consent from someone else. But that's not always how it works. Sometimes a DAO might be in control of the actual resources provided. So in a true decentralized sense, what Somnium was talking about in terms of having many servers, it would be like many like nodes that are running not only to power the server, but also to power this consent mechanism that we have between communications. Currently, the consent mechanism is like you sign up to Facebook and then they don't really tell you what they're taking from you or what you can get from it. All you really do is like give them cues on your behavior, what you like, what you don't like, and then they sort of curate what you see. And whereas decentralized would be a flip on that, whereas everything you do is like based on your behavior, what you choose to give, what is in your news feed will be an amalgamation of things that you basically want to see.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do like there's a lot of like pros and cons obviously between the two. And like decentralization has the advantages of like reliability, scale, and privacy over our data. So those are kind of the main points of advantages for a decentralized comms network. And a lot of it does come down to privacy and data, and just making sure that the system is reliable and can scale properly. But yeah, a lot of people want to have control and say over, what gets done with their data. Nick, looks like you have a question. What's up?
Yeah, I was going to say it would be nice to see a decentralized version of WhatsApp, end-to-end encryption. Can't see what's on it unless you got that device. But yeah, that's WhatsApp is a case in point of centralized. Do you know what I mean? To a degree. So yeah.
Sorry, yeah. If Nick doesn't have a question, or if someone else.
Oh, you just can't. Yeah, you just can't hear me.
No, it's Twitter. It's fucking us up.
I could be calling him every name under the sun.
Every day is different with Twitter. That's the beauty of it. It's such a, it's a little bit like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. At least we can try and get through this spaces. Hopefully we don't get rugged.
Sorry.
I could potentially translate Nick's kind of comment rather than question for Suda, which is all about how cool it would be to see a decentralized and encrypted platform so that only the device in hand can interpret messages that are being sent and received. I guess that's a big question that I had in my list. So maybe Nick's brought it to the fore is, when I think about decentralized communications, and my little brain doesn't get very far into it before it kind of runs ashore, but my understanding is that privacy and confidentiality is the main benefit, is kind of what I understand. So what is this idea of, how does encryption and things like that work on a decentralized service?
Currently, there's a few options. There's also, SYLO, what they're going to be up to is like a further solution, but I can give some sort of idea as to what it's like now. And this is from first-hand experience on a project that I don't need to name. I can give you the mechanics. But basically how it works is for on-chain decentralized encrypted messaging, both parties need to be online at the same time. So what I have is like a couple of laptops in my laundry that are always connected to a node. And basically, if I want to message someone, the other person has to be online for them to message, for them to receive that message. So the basic incentive is like you're always connected. You can choose to give whatever token that you have for your economy for people who stay connected, like for longer times, etc. But that's not how communications works in the sense that the mainstream accepts it, where you don't need to be online when I send you a message on Facebook. You just get it later. So that's where the server comes in. That's where the data harvesting comes in. And that's where you as a product sort of comes in, basically, because they have the ability to store all the information that you're trying to get to someone. They can then be in control of that data. So currently, even for on-chain, like even transactions, if you view a message as a transaction currently, because ETH network is running everywhere, I can send you some money, basically. So in a decentralized world, communications would be along that same sort of sense, where we're all part of a chain, and the chain has a trustless smart contract that no one can access your message that you're trying to get to someone else, and then have a solution to solve that problem of two people needing to be online to get that message.
Yes. I saw Jessie had her hand up, but I think she kind of got booted by Facebook, but I've brought her back up now. Jessie, did you have a question? And hello, how are you, Jessie? Nice to see you. Jessie, did you have a question? Maybe Jessie can't hear me.
Jessie, do you have a question? This is such great Twitter communications. This is why we need decentralized communications.
This is the use case for SYLO right here.
I was going to say, to the point that, people having to be online to send messages, user experience has to be kind of at the top of mind to be able to, get people to convert over to such applications. And, these days it's pretty hard to get people to download apps anyway. So, focusing on a kick-ass user experience and delivering that to your users is, really an important part of decentralized comms. So
yeah, definitely.
A lot of problems to be solved.
Yeah, because I guess that's the reason why a majority of people use, we use centralized communication every day. It's so easy. You don't have to think about it. It's free. But when something is free, it kind of means that you're the product. So that's why decentralized comms is super important. But without that, we're just like, oh, it's so available and easy. And it's a lot of things something that people don't really even think about. They don't realize that, all the messages that you're sending are actually being that's precious data that's being sold. So bit of that.
Yeah, nothing comes for free. So 100%. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. I think we have Jesse back. Jesse, can you hear me? And I know your hand was up, and then I can see Money GCC is got his hand up as well, or her hand up as well. So we'll get to you in a second. But Jesse, can you hear us? Come in, Jesse. Did you have a question?
Yes. Hi. First off, great job, Nebu and Top Cat, for organizing this. We have some serious stars up on the stage right now. Sam, Suda, Monty, and even the NZ Web3 crew. Thank you guys for everything you're doing out there in New Zealand. Hi, I just have some questions, but more than anything, I wanted to ask, for the sake of context and history, can anyone give us and I kind of know where this is going to go, but can we get an example of what happens when the bad side of having super centralized communication? What does that mean for our data? Why is it bad? For those who might not know. Why decentralized communication suck?
Yeah. Well, there's things like data breaches and things like that that have occurred in the past that you kind of have to be aware of and kind of take into account. It's not all about the data, but there's kind of a single point of failure with centralized communications. So if that server goes down, that's kind of it. It doesn't have side servers really to rely on and operate with. So there's kind of that single point of failure, which is a big issue. So having multiple different sources that are, propping up your network and
Is it just me, or did someone get rugged?
Rugged.
Two main things.
I feel like
Come on, sorry, do better. If I bought a car for $44 billion and it drove like this, I'd be fucking angry.
It's usually me with the hot mic, and this always happens to me every Spaces, and Suda will be talking, and then I'll just be like da 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 da, and then I get messages can you hear everybody else, or are you just really rude? So I'm like,
can you guys hear me?
I'm just glad it's not me this time. I'm like,
I think we can hear each other.
Okay, the two main things I would say would be data breaches and data privacy, and having a single point of failure. So, centralized comms have a single point of failure, whereas decentralized ones don't. Those would be my two main cons for centralized networks.
I would just add to that in the sense that why is anything centralized bad opposed to decentralized? It's about relinquishing control on a user level, basically. We can even go into in comms specifically, just the use of AI and recommending tactics which compel you to stay talking about a certain thing, compel you to buy a certain thing, that maybe things that you didn't wish to know about, etc. So those are more of the insidious, you're a product nature of comms. But also in saying that, I'm not advocating to be paranoid about these things. It's just about knowing that these are issues and there are solutions that can be done in a decentralized way. It's whether we'll be able to challenge the convenience and free, in quotation marks, communications that people are used to currently. And yeah, that's my basic thoughts on that.
Beautiful. Money GCC, welcome to the show, man. Have you got a question?
Hey guys. No, it's more of a comment and probably a little bit of an answer to Jesse's. Goes into what Jesse's question was. Most people don't know I'm actually a former telecom engineer, and I actually used to deal in the area of lawful intercept, and this is what got me interested in decentralized communications, especially like things like SYLO. What most people don't know is that your data is not really private. There are two entities in most countries that always have access to your data, and that is the telecom company and the government in most cases. Most countries, when you get a telecom license, you're required to provide the government access to your user plane and your control plane data. So like within a packet data core, you have different interfaces, GN, GB. And these interfaces are typically tapped for the government. And what they do especially in places like China and in the Middle East, they do what's called deep packet inspection. This is where they can open your data and basically filter it out or drop packets that are not allowed. So basically, they can actually open your. People think things are totally encrypted, but it's not the case. You can actually open the user plane data, and at that interface, you could pretty much figure out what the packet is and either drop it or keep it with a node called like a PCRF, a policy control rules charging node. And in a lot of places, this is really monitored heavily, especially in places like China and in the Middle East. So that's kind of what got me interested in things like decentralized communications, and it should actually get a lot of people interested in it because it creates more privacy. And that's pretty much my only comment I wanted to make.
Well, that's some serious background there, sir. You kind of know the root of the issue there, so it's good to have that perspective.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people, are going to have the same perspective because they don't get to see the ins and outs of, what happens behind the scenes and who gets to see what and who has access to what with your data. So, it's important to hear those kinds of things and really understand, you really don't have control of your data and your privacy online. I mean, you do to an extent, but without these tools, you're only going to get less and less control.
Yeah, what most people don't realize is if you work for the government or if you work for the telecom company, a thing like WhatsApp, all the IP addresses that WhatsApp use. So let's say you're in Egypt and you're protesting the government, right? The Egyptian government can basically block all of the WhatsApp IP addresses. So now you have no way to communicate over WhatsApp, right? But with decentralized communications, like something like SYLO, all the IP addresses can never be known because there are so many IP addresses. Service can come online just out of nowhere. So there's always a chance to circumvent these things with decentralized communications.
How do we deal with the people who don't care? There are a lot of people who are out there that just want to be able to pick up a device and be able to use it. Like we normally call them iPhone users, but how do we get mass adoption to a group who actually don't care what data's out and about?
Great user experience.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, but look,
great user experience.
I think with all innovations. Sorry, someone else was talking. I'm sorry. I think, as with all innovative technologies, I think you don't sort of care about those users. You will only get those users to care when you've provided a solid alternative, basically. It's when you've done all the work and they've been saying, nah, this is going to suck for ages. And then eventually, like 2 years down the line, they'll be like, oh, maybe it was a good idea after all. Which is
you deal with the people who do care first, I guess. And then then you kind of, once those people have figured it out, and they start telling other friends, obviously, and kind of trickles down from there to the people that really aren't that interested. But I think ultimately you provide a better experience for them.
Yeah.
A better product, really.
I think that education is a massive one because, even before I was at SYLO and stuff, I kind of understood the basics of what centralized communication was, and I mean, people who even don't have an idea of what decentralized comms are, they understand that their phones, kind of like listen to them and harvest data and suggest certain things in the algorithm, so you're more likely to spend more time on your phone and things like that. It's just not being conscious of like maybe the extent and the intent of that. So I feel like the more conversations that I have with kind of my normal friends that don't really they're not in the Web3 space, they don't understand the concepts that much, like once the doors open, like they kind of understand a little bit more and why decentralized comms is really important and why we should really be focusing on that. And I feel like really like 2023 is going to be the year where this conversation starts happening a lot more, especially in countries where there's been a lot of censorship, just as that person was saying before. So this is going to become a lot larger of a conversation, and that is going to help with mainstream adoption, because people kind of understand the necessity now. But that is that, like, centralized comms is so efficient and so easy to use, and people don't even think about it, which is what they've done right there. But I feel like the conversation is just going to keep happening and growing as the world changes, and as we depend on social media more, and I think it's.
And what pushback do you foresee coming from government level? Because the government's just got rid of ciphers. I've run ciphers for nearly 10 years now. So, but they got rid of the BlackBerry network in Australia. They got rid of ciphers. They got rid of different levels of crypto phones. How do you think they're going to try hinder this explosion? Because I'm all for it, but
that's not just governments that do that. Like Android and iPhone all do that as well, because they have protocols that basically in a decentralized world where you're always on, always connected, for the purpose of trustlessness, we like mobile phones will like actively know where you're going to, where you're getting data from and to, and so they can block you as well. But in terms of like, let's take Bitcoin for an example, right? There's many forms of currency that have had like wars done over and like brutally inhibited, but Bitcoin has stood the test of time because we have collectively become more technologically astute and are able to run nodes all over the world, etc., and sort of selflessly provide nodes for people who may not have resources to be able to do that, which is a great thing, etc. But no government has stopped Bitcoin yet, and decentralized processes lead to strength via like a quality service provided by like a higher quantity of low-level users, basically.
So are these users going to have more like a Starlink scenario over the standard telcos?
That's up to us. So there are things called mesh networks, and I think Iran did this when in the like protests that were happening like 7 or 8 years ago, where essentially you were like a well-connected LAN, but with wireless points, etc. So the government weren't able to stop that, but it was still like a very sort of janky setup that couldn't carry that much information, etc. So we would, if people got together and decided we want to do a Starlink, and it was the people's Starlink, and everyone, voted via DAO, etc., that would be amazing. But I don't think as a humanity we're at that point, because if we were, we would have probably built massive starships already. But it's these conversations that get it started. So maybe babies will have some sort of people Starlink. But yes, that would be a dream, right?
Planting the seeds right here at the Web3 Town Square, you reckon, Suda? Nice. I did notice Jags NZ Web3 has had his hand up for a little while. Jesse is back again with another big brain question, no doubt. But before we throw to Jags, I just wanted to say, if you have a question but you don't feel like you really want to get up on stage, there is a little chat icon in the bottom right hand corner if you're on a mobile device, and you can ask your question in there and we will raise it with the panel. So NZ Web3, Jags, you have a question, mate?
Yeah, sure, bro. I've got a question. Before I throw it in the panel, I just wanted to say that I do agree what NF Monty was saying, that 2023, the year is going to be big on talking about decentralized communication. And then Nebu sort of touched upon it, that how would it help, and like what catalyst would play for it? Would it be Twitter Spaces? Would it be something in Discord or stuff? I just wanted to throw that question out there. If anyone have an idea, what would help more of this decentralized communication topic to push more? Great initiative today. Topcat and Nebu, what you guys started. This is a great conversation. I just wanted to see what your guys' thoughts are. Like, what would push it more?
I think there's a study out of Stanford that deals specifically on UX. I'll try to post it later in the day if I can find it. And in that study, they talk about how user experience is probably one of the most important factors to adoption. And it seems to me that Aaron and Dorian, they have taken UX, this concept of user experience, into their calculation for mass adoption. Because they've talked about how user experience and how it should be seamless to the end user in order to get mass adoption. They should know that they're in blockchain or that they're in Web3, doing some form of communication or doing some form of gameplay. So I think that's probably the most important factor to adoption on a mass scale. Most people aren't technologically savvy, so it's gonna come down to the UX and how it's designed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I don't really see a place where people are going to be talking about, hey, you need to come and check out this amazing new decentralized communication tool that I'm using. We should all join it. It's just never going to happen like that, right?
It's called design thinking. I think it's called design thinking, the study out of Stanford. So if you look up design thinking, you can probably find out what the whole UX discussion is when it comes to adoption.
I think another.
Sorry, go Monty.
Oh no, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say another driver is just other centralized options, like making missteps. Like when Facebook, data breaches happen, or when Elon buys Twitter and takes away Spaces on a whim, etc. Those are drivers to other options, like WhatsApp getting famous and then Facebook buying them and getting less famous is like a misstep. In the sense that drove people out of WhatsApp into things like Telegram, etc. And then now just even social communications as a whole is being driven to decentralized options like Mastodon, etc. Like things that people would have never heard about if if Twitter was going fine and everything was fine, you know? So it's just like as things become apparent that are wrong or things that we want to have a better alternative for, those are also drivers. So when we set better examples, better alternatives, then we can sort of, you know, invite people into those realms.
Yeah, that's such an important point, right? There's so many of the tools that we use were just simply a better version of what existed, or were a better replacement when something that was the mainstream got broken. Jesse, you've had your hand up for a little while.
Hey, yeah. Not a big brain question. In fact, probably quite the opposite. But I noticed that nodes get mentioned quite a bit when we're talking about decentralized communications. For those who might not be familiar, what is a node? And can you explain to me like I'm an infant?
What the fuck is a node?
Help me.
Somnia?
Som is the node.
Sorry.
Probably one
There he
of
I'm back. Quick question. Hit it to me again. Sorry.
What the fuck is a node, Som?
Oh, what the fuck is a node? is that literally the question?
That's literally the question. Jesse pronounced it in a much more diplomatic way. She set it up much better than I've let. You know, I'm one of those people that just cuts to the chase.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a point. It's a server essentially, and it's where you create that server, and it's a point where it interacts with the network, and you know, drives the network forward, and creates. Well, it doesn't create, but it interacts with the other nodes on the network and validates things that are happening. If that's sort of a way to answer it. Probably a lot more to that.
Nodes, like it's easy to think of nodes as a relay system, right? Like all they really do is provide a constant resource for I get something from X and I pass it on to Y, basically. And in terms of like a Bitcoin node, it'll just be a thing that's validating your transaction. So if I send Jesse some Bitcoin, around like 60 other nodes will verify that I did in fact send that Bitcoin to this address. And then all those nodes, once they come to a consensus, yes, that transaction in fact happened, then it'll be updated to the open ledger, which is like Bitcoin transaction history kind of thing.
Yeah,
Same.
and there can be like both like cloud and physical nodes sort of thing. Like if you wanted to spin up your own like physical hardware of a node, you can create it that way, or you can spin it up on like a cloud server. And yeah, it's basically like a communication endpoint within the network. Like you said, it's a relay sort of. You know, they all kind of communicate to each other. Each node does.
So your seeker, for those of you who have seekers in the room and those of you who don't, go and have a look at these NFTs. A seeker is a cloud-based node, am I right? I'm asking the question.
You could actually spin up a seeker on a hardware node if you'd like. We'll provide as many options as we'd like, as people would like. Ultimately, we're trying to make it as easy to spin up a node as possible, and with as many options as possible.
Yeah, what I noticed is that you could spin up a node basically on something as simple as a Raspberry Pi, if you have a static IP address. From the description.
Yeah, it is all about the static IP for sure.
Yeah. So that's what I'm like currently doing. Just have a couple of nodes, but this is with the compromise of like I have to be online to receive and send messages, etc. In the decentralized talks that Monty and Josh did, which I think everyone should go check out on the SYLO channel. They were actually talking about a solution which was described as an event relay, where basically I go send an encrypted message to a trusted node that is going to be online, and then when, say, Jesse or whoever I'm trying to send this message to comes online, they can request this message from a trusted node intermediary. And then you can have ways of incentivizing those options. So there are solutions coming, and I'm pretty excited that Seekers can be done on hardware stuff, because I'm a hoarder and I have like all my laptops and things from years ago. So I'll be spinning up a good SUDA server at my house for sure.
I want an account on the SUDA server. So Seekers is a really interesting project, right? And very important to this conversation, I think. Do you guys have any sort of time frame? I know it's very hard when you're running against a roadmap, but is there any kind of time frame when the Seekers protocol will start to be kind of utilized or launched or beta tested, or whatever, however you might describe it? And if that's alpha you can't drop, just tell me to piss off.
just writing on Slack like, can we say anything? I don't know.
This wasn't an official comms thing.
Yeah. We've got
so maybe just follow along to SYLO.
Yeah, we've got some pretty exciting like I said, it's day one back at the office today, so we're just kind of catching up on timelines and everything like that, and when we can release any more alpha. And I'm going to stop it right there because I will say something that I shouldn't. So
yeah, no, I'll retract that question and let you guys have control over your own conversation. I can see Jessie's got her hand up. I have a question that I'm itching to get out, but I'll let Jessie go, and then I'm going to put my hand up so that I can ask a question in a minute. Jessie, go.
Just while we're here on the topic of communication, I just want to say that you guys need to go to Mark Ribier's show in Auckland these next 3 days. I'm plugging, I don't care, but the first original NFT that I ever minted with my original work was a portrait of this internet superstar. So if you guys are in Auckland, New Zealand from the 11th through the 13th, go hang out with Mark.
Who is that? What is this?
Yeah, where?
I think it's what's the venue that has power in the name? It's like Power
Station. But who is this person? I'm totally
dude, homegrown. Okay, as you guys know, I'm from Dallas and I love it. Born and raised, love it here. And back in the day, there used to be this very, how do I say it? A very eclectic looking gentleman who would post up and make these beats and got really known around town for making these on the spot tracks, and then he would roast the crowd, and it was this whole it was sick. Then he blew the fuck up, sorry for cussing, and now is a world renowned artist that gets to travel the world.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Handsome guy with the glasses.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Got it. Thank you for that.
That's it.
Jessie. I needed to know that.
I'm totally not saying this because I have any direct connection, and I'm totally not saying this because they're in the room right now, but Auckland, New Zealand, you have really fun stuff to do this weekend, and that's an example of the value of communication. Thank you and goodbye.
It's true. There we go. 100%.
And Mark's up in your DMs going, thanks, Jessie. Nice. So my question, and it may be identifying me or outing me as the least intelligent person in the room, but I want to know a little bit about misinformation, right? So a lot of these centralized networks rely on someone censoring and monitoring the content that's being posted. And the little bit of research that I've done around this topic seems to suggest that in a decentralized network, there'll be, I guess Sue is talking about this idea of consent, right? I have to consent to have stuff. So is there any conversation about misinformation? Is it going to be worse in an environment where there's less regulation, or is it likely to be easier to control? Anyone have any thoughts?
Is control the right word?
Maybe not.
Control in the sense of your experience, yes. But you have to kind of remember, we might be in the Web3 community and come from a background of decentralization and think about these things in a more altruistic sort of hopeful, things will be okay kind of sense. But a lot of people who get driven to platforms like these are the more paranoid amongst us, are the more easily bought into certain things. And we kind of have to make sure that it's a safe space for everyone. It doesn't matter who is using the platform, but when the platform is open and based on consent, you can choose to be in a space, right? Like, so there will be spaces where what things that we may class as misinformation and things that we personally wouldn't interact with. But in a centralized world, you don't have an option per se. And a lot of the times you'll find that some of these centralized social communications networks favor people that are the loudest, that are complaining the most, that are willing to post on every, willing to comment on every post, etc., etc. So if that basis is coming from like misinformation or legit information, the algorithm doesn't really care. It's just, hey, we're going to focus on the people using our platform the most kind of thing. In decentralized, it's flipped. You control what you use, etc.
So is this idea of I feel like there's two questions coming out of here. One, does this consent process slow things down, or is it an easy kind of function? And two, will I be far more responsible for my own curation of my own content? Like, I think there's a lot of people out there that, for better or for worse, kind of rely on these suggestion engines to recommend different content and help introduce and spread content that in some cases might be worth spreading and in some cases definitely not. Is this something that is being addressed or discussed about in a decentralized platform?
We do have like examples of that, and usually that works in terms of like, for instance, Brave browser has like opt-in ads, and you get like a Brave token for interacting with things that advertisers pay for, that you could get these tokens with, kind of thing. And communications, I don't think will be much different, and it'll go back to like a more of a grassroots word of mouth thing, maybe some filters based on things you like. I'm not like developing the solutions here. I'm just sort of thinking out loud. Yes, so there will still be a need for products to be marketed to random people. It's just how they do that will be more in line with how we want them to do that, rather than them just figuring it out for us.
Cool. And so does that put a lot more onus on, say, an artist to go back to their own marketing, I guess, rather than payola, where they can, and I'm not suggesting artists do this, but certainly maybe labels and things like that would do it, where they would, use these tools and these platforms and the algorithms to promote and game the system and build an artist or an act. Is it now a lot more reliant on, and we're going back to the old school way, where an artist needs to build their own audience and I guess they're going to be remunerated accordingly, but how does that work?
I don't think old school or going back is like the right thing, because we're moving very much forward. The problem currently is privacy isn't the default, like we sort of know that there's technical stuff happening in the background, we just don't want to think about it. And that needs to be the same for whatever decentralized solution there is. People don't want to think about like, it's only the people that are caring about privacy that will go into a platform thinking about things like this, right? So it's more of a, let's do the platform in a way that it preserves privacy, and you can have have like the I'm an easy user, I don't care too much experience, or you can have a more of an under the hood kind of experience, which is how like some options work nowadays. But I mean, I don't know the answers. These are just
so as we start to be in control of our privacy a little bit more, be in control of what people see of ours or what they can push to us, how do you think, like a lot of marketing companies, a lot of businesses, you know, their forward planning is based around who gets to see an ad, who gets to see these different things. As we move to nodes and move to these other forms of privacy, how do you think that's going to affect the market and prices of products? They're going to have to rise because it's going to be harder to get hold of people. So it's actually going to drive prices in the local markets up for products.
Privacy is pricey. I'm not going to deny that because we live in a world where Facebook is
so it becomes more of an elitist thing. You can be like, can you afford privacy?
That's the thing, you know. We need to make the default privacy so it's accessible by every single person.
And at the cost of that, the price of food and the price of everything else goes up. So the people on the other end of the scale can't afford things.
Well, I don't, in the same way that decentralized food, like this is a huge fucking topic. Like decentralizing food itself is probably something like humans will go back to, maybe not in the cities, never again. Like in terms of like when you want control of something and then it's the default, then it shouldn't be costly, right? Like if the fisherman in some certain area wasn't reliant on the system that we have now, they may be able to survive happily, you know. It depends in different countries, it works different ways, but in terms of building a walled garden and being elite, etc., those are criticisms that blockchain suffers currently. And I think just through further and further proliferation and technology becoming cheaper as time goes on, we may see a world where Raspberry Pis are being distributed to the poorest communities for them to run their own business.
Yes, so New Zealand, for example, they've got a flyby system and all of the supermarket systems where people get rewards at the checkouts. And the supermarkets use these systems to work out what people are going to buy, when they're going to buy it at different times of the year. And that they then go out and use our buying power to bring down prices or bring things to a certain, to be able to negotiate in a certain way to bring prices down. Like if we start to withhold a lot of this data from them, they're not going to be able to do it in the same way. And decentralized food's a massive topic. I love that topic if we ever want to get into that.
I think we definitely need to have a Web3 town square on decentralized food.
Big fan. Grow your own.
Been reading a lot about it, learning a little bit more about it. It seems like it's a pretty big topic that's pretty important. So, Nebu, let's mark that one up in the calendar, bro. See who.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. But I'm just I actually haven't thought about how this would affect the market as far as pricing goes. So
I don't think there will be much in terms of withdrawal, because people will still have likes and want to customize their experience on the platform. It'll be up to advertisers to come into the platform, see their market, respond to that market, and see how they can market within that platform. But in terms of the flybys example and rewards, I totally see rewards being part of this, right? Like using that Brave example, like if there's means to incentivize your user base, means to incentivize those who are trying to sell something to your user base, and the platform allows for that in a prosperous way, so there's no intermediaries or middlemen or regardless, then I think it won't be much different in terms of what advertisers who mine for data currently will need to like adapt to the new order. But well, these are all like part of the problems, right? Like the convenience that we have accepted that the centralized like world has given us makes us very resistant to these types of changes. Even like Bitcoin, like the like just cryptocurrency itself, like coming like just over a decade ago and having such an impact is an example that there is an appetite for people to at least think about or participate in this, what the new version of communications could be. Just started with currency because currency was more like it's people in the Middle East protesting something need that communication but also need to transfer value somehow. So if your government doesn't let you talk because of a certain telecom protocol network that you're using, if your government doesn't let you bank, etc., this is just giving you an option. And maybe one day the option will be so necessary that people will relinquish some of those conveniences. But it's also on the people building the platform to make that convenience metric be part of it, like the UX conversation that was brought up before.
Yeah, the cost is one of the barriers of decentralized communication, but Josh gets into a lot of depth in this when we had our Decentralized Comms chats, which, as we said, is recorded on YouTube, so you can go check it out after this chat if you need more information. But one of the barriers has always been the cost, but that is where incentivization comes in, and he gets a lot more in depth into that conversation. Unfortunately, my brain is not as big, but if you check that out, if you are interested.
Are you good to pin that to the top?
Yeah, I will grab it.
Thank you.
Awesome. And Money GCC, if you've managed to find that link to the UX article that you were talking about, man, if you want to pin that'd be awesome for those who are interested in that.
It's a complete study from Stanford. Let me actually look for it. Open it this up.
Cool, thank you. I guess one of the sort of core parts about wanting to do this space was I'm very passionate and very interested in this concept of identity and how the Web3 and blockchain technology that's being more broadly adopted has provided different opportunities for people, and in terms of how they manage, control, influence, and I guess develop their identity. How is this at all going to be impacted by the mass adoption of decentralized communication tools, given that we won't need real-world ID figures to create accounts? Like there'd be no links to my email or my phone number or any sort of real-world identification tools. What are your thoughts around how decentralized communication tools will impact, influence, or manipulate identity?
I think there'll be less manipulation. Just saying that.
You don't think deepfake's got a chance of taking over a decentralized platform?
If the deepfake can get my private keys, yeah, sure.
Nice one. I think Rollerblazer, you've just pinned something to the top. How are you, mate?
So yeah, I'm good. I just came up to share the documentary, the design thinking kind of study. So there's a documentary up top, so check that out. Probably don't want to read the whole Stanford documentation, so go ahead and watch that. It's pretty good. UX is great. See you later. Bye.
Just to have a point to add to your conversation question here, I think that's a really good topic. And at the block is something that we talked about in what is decentralization and understanding that term first. But once one kind of like figures that one out, I think with identity, it's there was some attempts at what identity, internet identity or blockchain identity might look like with global ID, but that could be faked very easily. And I think that we may move to a model that's more individual specific. Like imagine if you could have someone's identification that was encrypted and tied to a non-transferable, say an NFT that would be sent to the person's wallet, and that would be your KYC check as verification that would kind of go wherever that wallet goes, is maybe one way to do it.
Interesting. Tybo, I see you've got your hand up, and there's also a question that's been sitting in the little chat room over here from Pointer Charlie about the static IP. Explain for us who are not super tech savvy, how does that mean the node is able to be tracked and shut down if it has a static IP to host a node? I don't know if that's getting a little bit too technical for this conversation, but Suda and I think Somnium's bolted, and he's probably the person to answer that question.
Yeah, sorry, he had to go a little bit earlier, so it's just us now.
Okay. What I might do is grab that, fire it to Som, and I will pin a tweet to this recording of this space if I can to answer that question for you. Tybo, did you have a question, mate? How are you?
I was more just adding to the conversation with like decentralization and ID. Like Auto blockchain is a KYC compliant blockchain that's coming out, and it's similar to following anti-money laundering laws. When you sign up for a centralized exchange, that is a trusted third party that allows, once you KYC, you're allowed to use that platform. It will be a similar concept with Auto, where you'll use their onboarding KYC process where they follow the laws of their country, and you'll provide your identification, and then you'll get a token that represents that you have proved that you're a real person and you KYC'd. What that token does not do, it does not show your privacy, like as in your identification. It doesn't say like your name and address and whatnot. It just proves that you're a real person and you can be held accountable. And I think that's the first step that we'll go towards when it comes to decentralized identification.
Thanks, Tybo. I see Atari's jumped up on the stage. Atari, did you have a question or a comment, man? How are you, and Happy New Year? Oh, Atari bolted. Maybe I scared him off. Sorry, bro. All right, well, we've been at this a little over an hour now, and I noticed that some of the guest speakers have had to leave a little early. If anybody else has any more questions for our panel or would like to add to the conversation, please step up.
Atari's come back up.
Atari's back. Hey, man. How are you?
Hey, what's up? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're all good.
I didn't request, but I just wanted to say, hey, I'm sorry I came late. I love you guys. I'm at work. I'm at the fire station right now. I didn't request, but I'm flattered that that you brought it up, and yeah, I look forward to listening to this space.
Yeah, it's been a big brain one, I think, and probably the start of an ongoing conversation throughout the year. I dare say there'll be more of this conversation happening as the year rolls out. It sounds like not only is it a hot topic, but a hot topic for a very good reason, and something that's right on the cusp of happening. There are platforms like Mastodon, which are very interesting. A lot of people are jumping into this space, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of innovation and a lot of change happening. And hopefully, if they get the UX right, none of us will even know, but we'll all start using these exciting new tools. I was involved or fortunate enough to be part of the Seekers Mint, which was a lot of fun, and have been following the SYLO project since then. And I think what those guys are up to is just incredible. And it's going to bring a lot of opportunity to a lot of parts of the world that currently don't have opportunities. And so one of the big things for me that I'm super excited about when it comes to decentralized communications, and we have talked a little bit about it in the space today, is the opportunities for underrepresented and over-controlled or over-policed populations to access these tools and to be able to participate in conversations, communications, and networking at a much bigger level. So that to me is one of the beauties of blockchain and the Web3 explosion, and I think it's really going to make an interesting world that we live in when some of the voiceless people start having a voice. And I'm really excited that I'm a small part of the team that are helping to build in that space. So yeah, super cool.
I just got another question. I'll throw it out there. Are we going to see the push for decentralized devices like handsets and things, or are these going to exist on our current handsets? That's open to anyone.
Essentially, a decentralized OS.
I think it would have to be current stuff for any sort of adoption, to be honest. And there are ways around that. There are people, I mean, there are like networks that run on mobile phones now, but I think you would have, like, as with the current sense, you would have devices that are user-based, nodes that are also user-based, servers also that are user-based. So we'll have to work together to provide enough juice for our current devices to be able to be used in such a thing. And even like the cheapest phone in the should be able to connect to it, right? Like, you may not get the full UX experience using a device like that, but the core communications should still be fulfilled on current tech.
It's really transfer of data though, isn't it? We're only passing the data across that network and it could be served whatever way on the device. Is that what we're looking at? Because I know using cipher phones and things, it was just the data that was encrypted on both ends, but it could be served up however your UX was.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, so device would just be like the tool to view what's happening on the network rather than be part of the network. But I guess you could also run a node on a phone. I'm sure that's possible.
Sorry, I was a little bit busy there helping out Money GCC, pinning that article to the space. There you go, friend. You'll now find it at the top of the screen. Very good. Guys, I want to, I feel like this is coming to an end. I see Felice is in the room. Felice, you jumped in and then kind of bolted out. Did you have a question, or was there something that you want to add to the conversation before we start to wrap this sucker up?
Yeah, a bit of a noob question. I recall Mastodon had a hack where it was around 150,000 identities were stolen. I sort of just had a general question about security with decentralized comms, but it's probably a bit late in the piece.
Yeah, I would answer that, but I have to. Well, actually, I wouldn't answer that because I don't know enough about it. But probably a good thing to do actually is to hop on over to the Seekers Discord, pop your question in there, and then I can pass it on to Josh, who's like our big brain decentralized comms man. So yeah, if this town hall has inspired you and you've got more questions and yeah, you want to find out some more information, definitely hop on over to our Discord. Chuck your questions in there. I'll get Josh to answer you ASAP. And if you haven't already, check the pinned tweets up there. You can see the part 1, 2, and 3 of our Decentralized Comms chat, so it really, really goes into depth. I think we touched on security a wee bit in there. So yeah, but I can also get you a beautifully curated, personalized answer from our local professional if you would like. So yeah, just pop into our Discord.
Awesome. I think that's a really nice time to wrap this thing up. NF Monty, Suda, the studio, Som, who's already left Hybo, and others that joined us, Money GCC. Great to hear from all of you guys. Thank you so much for giving up your time and I guess opening this conversation up for 2023. I'm really looking forward to getting into it a little bit deeper. Maybe we can have some of the other team from SYLO join us next time and get a little bit deeper into some of the more, I guess, niggly questions that are surfacing around privacy and identity and these sorts of deeper topics. And it's a really cool thing to be able to provide that sort of information for the metaverse and all those in it. Nebu, always a pleasure, brother. Great to see you, man. Happy New Year to one and all. And with that, to an end, and we will see you same time next week.
Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos. Bunnies up!